So let's get into the predicted lineup that me and Ben have chosen.
I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm not agreeing.
Yeah, already. All right, well, in goal, obviously, we have Vicario. I'm guessing you guys want Lloris in goal? No, is that it? That's an obvious one. So, yeah, not too much to be said. On the right of what we're going for, right back, we're going Pedro Porro. He's going to be there. That's no surprise. Obviously, he's going to have his work cut out, isn't he, against Jeremy Doku? We spoke about that in the preview, didn't we? But, look, we saw Trent have a man of the match performance against... or was given man of the match. I don't know if people will argue whether he was the best player, but do you reckon Porro will look at that and think maybe take a few pointers out of how Trent played in that game? What do you guys think?
I can't believe we're comparing Trent and Porro.
Well, look, they're in terms of profile, are they not fairly similar? Like, obviously, Trent is just unbelievable on the ball, but like they're both right backs who are both good on the ball and not that good at defending. So do you reckon he'll be taking a few pointers from Trent?
We can only hope so. But like, this goes back to my point: attack. Like when it comes to Porro defensively, he's not the strongest. Albeit though, this first few games when he started against United, he wasn't too bad.
Seems to be improving. He still has this bad rap, but I think this season, I don't think he's been too bad defensively, in my opinion, anyway. So, look, we've gone for him. Centre back, the first one on the right, we are sticking with Emerson Royale. We do think he's going to play. And just hinting at it on his press conference. And I guess we'll just go through his partner as well, just so we can go cover the partnership. We're going for Ben Davies as well. So we're thinking it is going to be Davies and Emerson. You guys, would that be the two you guys would pick? I guess let's each go. Ash, what two would you pick?
Yeah, I'd keep it the same. I think moving forward, they've got to kind of build a relationship between them, and the only way they're going to do that until Romero comes back is if they keep the partnership the same. There's no point chopping and changing the dynamics where Ange was saying on the sidelines, pass it, move it forward, faster, now. That's what he was shouting on the sidelines. So, and he was saying that about Ben Davies, by the way. But I think if Ben Davies needs to improve that part of his game clearly. But defensively, Ben Davies is like one of the better defenders, I think, in terms of blocking and tackling. Like he's a steady Eddie. Do you know what I mean? He's not the quickest, and that's what you get with obviously Royal. I just think between the two, they're gonna have to step up, know when to step up, when to drop off, just communicate between the two. And funny enough, in lockdown, they said that Ben Davies was the biggest talker. So you can't make it up, can you? Like the fact that they weren't communicating last week, hopefully they'll be able to sort that issue out. But that's my feelings on that. Keep the pairing the same.
Brains, what two would you play? Would you stick with Emerson and Davis?
No, I'd go Davies and Dorrington. I just think it's time that and that's hard because I actually really want to say Lyons, Foster, and Dorrington, and just throw it.
Really go for it.
They're playing in the same style. The youth coaches they all have the same style of play, so they know the kind of script. And I just think with that youth, I think young players would go like, let's just go for it, So I would just like to see it because I think we're going to get beaten any which way, regardless of who's there. So I don't really see why not just give a better rest to Davies or Emerson and just bring them on if it looks like they're swallowed by the pressure, bring them on, But I just think why not? I don't think there's anything to lose at all. It's a throwaway game. If anything, there's only things to gain. If it's a 1-0, if Man City just beat us, you're going, there you go. We've got two new defenders in the first team, So I know that's risky. A part of me says, no, look, Davies got man of the match just a game ago, So so maybe the right thing is Davies and Dorrington that I would go for. But yeah, that's what I would go for. So it's going to be a risky go full out.
I hear that. Sai, what two would you go for at the back?
I would like to have seen Gav's selection, but I think it is, I guess, like the next kind of option for me would have been to see Davies and Dorrington. I think Davies, yeah, okay. Some people call him like Ben Average, but I think he's a player that would be a very good leader to have next to you as a youth player. Not necessarily to learn from as such. It's more having that kind of leadership aspect and the knowledge of being a Spurs player, which Ben has been for a number of years, would be massively helpful. I can not see that happening. I do believe that it would probably be Emerson and Davis being started, but I would just love to see one of those academy players coming in. They've had an incredible season, and I think it's just one of those gung ho moments. Just get this opportunity for them in such a game like this. There is no right and wrong here. I think it's just test the mettle of one of them. It'd be absolutely fantastic to see, and every fan's going to be right behind them. I think that's the main thing. So I'd like to see that, but I can see why Andrew would probably go with the ones you've already selected.
Yeah, it's probably, there's no right or wrong, but it's probably Haaland 2 or 3 goals. I think that's probably the decision we have to make. Left back, obviously, we're going to go with Destiny Udogie. No surprises there. He's going to be playing on the left. And look, we've spoken about him having big tests this season against the likes of Saka and Salah, which he did well in those games. And obviously against Chelsea, didn't do very well. We'll probably have Phil Foden on this side. Very different kind of test. Not a kind of player like Saka or Salah, who's maybe not Salah, but more Saka, who's going to relentlessly run at you and ask different questions of you. But he's going to be a player who's going to have very close control and ask very different questions with movement and clever, footballing IQ and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how Destiny kind of combats a threat like Foden compared to maybe a Saka or a Salah, where maybe it's a bit more. I think in a way, facing a Salah or a Saka might be a bit simpler in a way, because like you kind of know what you need to do. But Foden kind of drags you all over the place, doesn't he? Maybe it's going to be interesting to see how he combats that. What do you guys think?
Doggy has to start for me. There's no question about it.
Yeah, we know that. Yeah, but how do you think he fares against Foden?
Yeah, no, it'll be a test. It will be, but like I said, at times the Doggy's quite central, and then at times he's out wide. So, and I think he knows when to be out wide, and he knows when to be central. So, testament to him and his actual football IQ. I think it's going to be a tricky matchup. But as I said, out of possession, I expect us to be in a 4-4-2, and we're going to be quite narrow. And that's where Foden likes to drift in. He doesn't really hug the touchline. He kind of he's more of an inside kind of forward or inside winger, shall I say? And hopefully, the doggy has been doing his homework, because they've all had a week off to study them. And they've probably been watching him in the Champions League as well. And so Foden was playing in that game. He'd be able to see his positioning, where he's likely to do, what he's likely to be. And hopefully Doggy will be able to deal with that, because he is much taller than him and a lot more. He has a lot more size. So if he just uses that to his advantage, then he should be all right.
Yeah, I think strength-wise, he probably muscles Foden off the ball a lot easier. But the one thing is if he gets in his sphere, but I think there's going to be a lot of switching, and I think he might end up coming up against Bernardo Silva a lot more. But then still, he would body Bernardo Silva with strength, but Bernardo Silva is the type of player who ducks that shoulder and goes so fast. Foden's got a bit of him as well, so those are the problems. But I actually fancy him to do better against Foden than he did against Saka, and probably about equal as he did against Salah. So I think he could have a good one. But again, it's about the application of him in the game, how we're going to play. Is he going to be that inverted fullback? Is he going to be pushing up in the high press? So will he even get in a lot of those duels? So how are we going to see him being used? Because that is the big question.
It's a good question.
All right, in midfield, we'll start with the number 6 position. We got Yves Bissouma coming in, replacing Rodrigo Bentancur, who's obviously got that bad injury. Let's hope for a speedy recovery. Obviously, I think he's the obvious choice to come in. He has played majority of the season as the number 6, albeit probably haven't quite seen the same Bissouma ever since that Luton red card. For one reason or another, he hasn't quite been on top of his game. So big game for him to walk into. But Do we think he's got the possibility of, getting back to his previous form? Earlier in the season, he was taking on all comers, had a great game against Arsenal, Liverpool, he's having great games as well. Man United, he had a brilliant game. So, do you reckon he can get back to that form? What do we reckon? Si?
Yeah, I think it's what was mentioned earlier, to be honest. I think he was carrying the cards on his back. It was Ash. I think Ash said that.
Ash said it, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly spot on. I think psychologically, as a player, you obviously want to give the best to your team, and especially a player like Bissouma. But equally, it does play a part. What's the next game in your mind? Do I want to miss that, etc., etc.? And I think now that's free, the shackles are off, and we can probably hopefully see the player that's going, do you know what? Doesn't matter if I go and fly in for a tackle right now and get another yellow. It's all cleared up, as long as it's not a crazy one like a red, obviously, but and no more like petulant, strange decisions like diving. That should be out of the window. So, for me, I think it's the perfect choice to have him there, and I think, as we said earlier as well, he's the perfect player to track backwards, but also put that forward and make that connection. I think he's going to be the key player in this whole game for us. I think it might be a bit far-fetched to say that, but if you think about it, he's probably holding the keys right now to try and make this a decisive game in our favour.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we've been so fretting about Bentancur's injury, and rightly so because of how good he looked. But we forget we've got Bissouma coming back and how good he was at the beginning of the season. So if he if he returns that form, people won't be thinking of Bentancur as much for sure. But obviously, he's not going to be available in January. But that's a problem for another time. Next central midfielder we're going to go with is Dejan Kulusevski on the right kind of number 10 position, or on the right hand side of the midfield, which he kind of played against Villa. We feel he's going to keep his position in the centre, just because I feel like he was brilliant there against Aston Villa. And I think Andrew would have seen that works, in my opinion. I don't think he'll want to lose that just to take out maybe another player, which we'll talk about later. So I think that dynamic with Kulusevski central, and also he made lots of tackles as well. I think in terms of duels he attempted, he was one of the highest on the pitch. So he also did the hard work off the ball as well as on the ball. So we feel like he's going to maintain his position there. Does anyone disagree?
Yeah, no, I disagree. I think Højbjerg there, because actually Højbjerg in an 8 is where he plays for Denmark, and he always gets goal involvements. For us this season, the good work Højbjerg's done has been when he's further up in the 8, helping the breakdown, like winning and then putting a pass in. So I think that's like his best position for us. So I think, because I just, for the life of me, think you go in with your strongest front 3, you go in with your strongest midfield you can put out, and our strongest front 3 is Kulu, Son, Johnson. So I say Højbjerg starts in that 8. And
you think, is that what you would want to do, or do you think that's what Andrew will do, or both?
I think good chance that it's both. I think that's both. I think that's what we do, and I would do that as well. Yeah.
I just think that he saw what Højbjerg and Bissouma did together against Wolves, and I just think, compared that to how creative we looked against Villa, I just think he's going to want to carry that on, in my opinion. But
why did he put Kulu back there?
What, later in the game?
When Bentancur went off, why did he put?
No, he didn't. No. He kept Kulu central up until the last 20 minutes when Skip came on. He took Lo Celso off, and then he put Skip central, and Kulu stayed central up until late in the game. I only really remember Kulu doing really great work centrally, though, in the first 30 minutes of the game, until Bentancur went off.
For me, I don't know. I saw Kulu on the left, and I saw Kulu on the right. He did drift a lot to the right. I know what you're saying about drifting off, but he wasn't central. Like, you never see Maddison central. You either see Maddison more or less in the half spaces. And I saw there was a time when the ball came into Kulu, and he just did like a little flick, a little one touch, little quiet back into Brian Hill. Brian Hill gets the ball and he shoots across the box. But it's a nice height for the keeper to save.
And that's where I would consider Kulu within the 10.
That's so.
And after that, he wasn't. He was back on the right.
No, for me, it was like, because it was him and Johnson. So Johnson was on the far right, like hugging the touchline, and then I thought that Kulu was on the edge of the box, if that makes sense. So he's never like positionally directly in the middle, even though when he was in that middle position, the reason why you didn't notice him so much because he didn't hold on to it. He literally did like a little pass sideways or pass back, but like a bounce pass, if that makes sense. Like a wall pass. Literally, the ball comes into him and he just lays it off, and then he runs off either to the left or to the right. And so I just generally think that, to be fair, he did veer off to the right more than he did to the left. In the first half, it was more on the left.
Ash, question to you then. A couple of two questions, quick fire ones. Would you start Kulu in the centre, and do you think Ange will?
Yeah, I think he will. I think, you know what it is? I think with a lot of these players, they get up for the big games. And I think that's a case with Kulu. We saw that how he played against City in the last game. And I said before, being the out ball and him being in the middle, you can literally fire the ball into him high up the pitch. You're going to be able to hold on to it. And then players can literally run off of him. So you can have like a Brian Hill running off him, and you could have a Son running off him, and you can have a Johnson running off him. So he's going to be that main person that we look to, whether it's the goalkeeper, whether it's the fullbacks, whether it's the centre-backs firing the ball into him. He looks after it, and then he lets players run, or vice versa. He might get the ball in the higher position. And I remember on the left-hand side in the second half, he was storming up the pitch. He didn't look quick, but he's deceivingly quick. And
there was one moment, wasn't there one moment when he carried the ball from our own penalty area all the way until the opposition's box? There was one moment, wasn't there?
Lesnoso gets the ball, hits it first time into him, and then he carries it all the way up into the opposition's half. And then he does like a cut back, I think he was into Johnson or Son, and then we created a chance from the back of it. So I would personally think that because of that performance and the quotes that he came out with as well, it'll be mad if Ange all of a sudden was like, "No, I'm actually going to drop you to the right wing." And I understand what Brains is saying. Why did he push him back to the right wing? I think he pushed him back to the right wing, in my opinion, was because, again, that midfield, he wanted control. And so he put Skip in there to be hardworking and fresh legs alongside Højbjerg. And then also, there was a couple of times when the ball broke to Brian Hill on that left-hand side, and Brian Hill wasn't really shooting because Brian Hill was so left-footed. He kind of span around and then tried to hit the ball on his left instead of hitting on his right. And it was a couple of times when Johnson was on the right, and he should have hit it on his left, but they're not hitting it first time. So he wanted to swap it over just to see if they invert, then maybe they might hit it first time on their stronger foot, if that makes sense. So I think that's what it was.
And quickly, Si, do you think Ange will play Kulu central, and would you play Kulu central? Just quick fire answer.
Yeah, definitely. I think he is more than capable of that position. I think it suits him very well. I just love his passing and threading ability. I think too many teams are focused now on his wide play. I think that it's just too obvious now most of the time. He's going to go down the line. He's going to cut inside, try and put a cross in. 9 times out of 10 doesn't go anywhere because the players aren't there to be able to do that. Or he'll try and run his way into the box, which works sometimes, etc. But through that middle, I think he's a handful. And one key thing will be his hold-up play, so that if we are in that position of attacking and there's not enough players up there, he has the ability significantly to hold that ball still, even if it's just for 5 seconds, for the team to finally catch up or turn it on a sixpence and then see Son pass him through. So I think it's a perfect position if he plays him there.
Okay, next central midfielder, we are going with Giovanni Lo Celso. Obviously, got a brilliant performance against Villa, scored the only goal of the game. I'm assuming we all agree, we all think he's going to start. Anyone disagree? Yeah, I think he has to start, doesn't he, in central midfield? He kind of fills in that creative hole. Well, I think him and Kulusevski together definitely do add creativity compared to just Maddison and Sarr as well. With Sarr, obviously, we didn't mention the team who Sarr is out for this game. He isn't going to be available. So, I think Gio has to play. And look, I think he's got his only Premier League goal before last week was against Man City, so he's got a bit of form there. So let's hope he carries on his good form. On the right-hand side, we're going to go with Brendan Johnson.
Go on. that is a bloody strong midfield. Like if you look at that is creative strength. That is a good midfield. The only thing, it's not even about the midfielders and those players of how to use Højbjerg, was just because I don't think Brian Hill is strong enough for this level.
I get it.
But if you are, but then you are going like, but who do you have off the bench if it's going wrong? You kind of need a Højbjerg off the bench. So just looking at those names in that shape, you are going, that is a very good midfield.
Yeah, and I think if we're going to play through City, that's our best way to do it. And I think that's what Andrew's going to try to do. On the right-hand side, we're going to go with Brennan Johnson. I think, to be fair, Brennan has been pretty good ever since coming into the team. I did think he's looked his most effective of any game on that right-hand side in the first half against Villa. Did seem to tire a bit in that second, but still looked dangerous. But I think in this kind of game against City, I think him being on the right-hand side is tailor-made for that. So we're going for Johnson on the right-hand side. Do any of you think he might start on the left, or would any of you want him to start on the left, or do you think he should be kept on the right?
He should have had assists in that game against Villa. The way he came on within minutes against Arsenal and he scored, he had the ball in the back of the net. Like, I think he is. I think he's that type of player who can play off either side. He can actually play centre forward as good as anyone we've got in the team as well. He is just an all across the line guy. He played so wide against Villa. I wish he got on the ball more. You know what I mean?
He was every time he did get on the ball, he looked very dangerous, didn't he? Especially in that first half, he was getting in behind and exploiting that high line. Yeah. And we've seen what pace. Yeah.
He wins the duels.
And we've seen what pace in behind him that Man City defence can do. And that's why up front, obviously, we're going with the man, Heung-min Son. We're going to start with him in the number 9 position. No surprises there. Got a great record against Man City. And you do feel like in this kind of game, if we are to get most joy, if someone's going to get a goal, it is most likely going to be him, isn't it? So obviously he has to start in the number 9 position. And then on the left-hand side, we are going with Brian Hill. Ben was actually of more Brains' opinion. Ben thought Hill isn't going to play. I don't know if he wants him to play. He thinks him up against Kyle Walker is a recipe for a bit of a disaster. I'm kind of on the thinking that, first of all, I can't see a way of fitting in Kulusevski central without fitting in Brian Hill. And as well, unless you want to put Son on the left, Johnson up front. I mean, you still kind of have to play Hill because of our injuries. I also kind of feel like...
Or you bring a central defender, you bring Dorrington and you put Ben Davies. You have Emerson, Dorrington and Davies as the fullback, and you put Udogie up there.
There's an option, maybe. That could be interesting. I just feel like... Yeah, go on, Ash.
I was going to say, or you just put Donnelly in the middle. There you go.
Donnelly central, what? Son on the left?
Put Donnelly in the midfield. Put Donnelly.
Oh, Donnelly in mid and what? Donnelly in...
Like as the 10, as the 8-10, whatever you want to call it. And then Kulu can play on the left. And then Johnson on the right. And then Sonny up top.
Because I think we look so much better when our wingers weren't inverted. I feel like when these wingers, like against Villa, when they're staying wide, creating as much space as possible for those central players to kind of operate in, like Lo Celso and Kulusevski, that is, I think, what Ange really wants to do. And I think he's kind of been dealing with the cards he's been dealt with so far. But I think we finally got that formula on Sunday. And even if Hill doesn't have a great game, he doesn't kind of, in a weird way, he doesn't need to. All he has to do is just stick out wide on the left, make sure Walker is tracking him, and that's going to leave space in itself. So I think even just Hill being there on the left-hand side, on his left foot, is going to have some value, even if he's getting dominated by Walker. So that's why I feel like he'll play, and I think Andrew's going to play him there. He did have a decent game against Villa. I wouldn't say he was terrible, but I felt like in that second half we definitely ran out of legs. But yeah, look, that's the look. So bring it on again. That's our predicted lineup. Vicario in goal, Porro, Emerson, Davis, Udogie. We're going for Bissouma, Kulusevski, Lo Celso, Johnson, Brian Hill and Son. Before we end the stream, guys, let's get a score prediction from all our guests. So we'll start with Sai, because he might have to go very shortly. So Sai, what's your prediction?
4-1 to Man City.
4-1?
I think it'll be 2-1 to Spurs.
Oh, there we go. A better prediction. That was your real prediction. That was a fake size.
I didn't say
4-1
the
City.
first one.
Oh, you didn't say the first one. Got you.
First one.
Ash, what are you saying? What's your prediction?
2-1 City away from home. I'm hoping for a draw. I think the whole league's hoping for a draw. So we never know. All the manifestation. Actually, I'm not even hoping for a draw. I'm hoping for a win. I'm talking mad.
Come on.
A win. I want us to win, man. But it would be so Spurs like. It'd be such a Tottenham move. Like we 3 on the bounce and then win against City and then lose against West Ham. So.
No, classic Spurs.
I think we'll lose 2-1.
2-1.
Yeah.
Brains, what do you reckon?
Great performance, though.
I think we will play. It'll be one of these strange. It's almost like a Nate Diaz performance. You know, like we'll actually see a lot of good stuff. We will, and we'll come away feeling proud.
Definitely.
But we will get beat 6-3.
6-3. A goal fest.
They'll
You didn't even blink, you that.
They'll put 6 past us. I'm going to go and drown myself in the ice bath now. That shit's not working. Not even the ice bath can make me that positive. No, I genuinely think that it'll be goals all day long for them. And we might do some amazing things to get those 3 goals. If we get 3 goals against them with that defense, that would be amazing in itself. And I think we can take the positives out. But they will hammer goals past us. They really will. If we go out with that defense, they will murder us at the back. It's just the reality of it.
In my preview show on the Predict the Prem, I did say 4-2 City, so I can't really backtrack from that. But I kind of agree with Braden here. I'd really think, looking at that team that we have, we're going to have tools to really give them a game and really take the game to them. And I don't see a reason why we can't open them up on a few occasions, and especially with Son up front and the way Johnson likes running behind and Lo Celso and Kulusevski operating. I don't see why we can't create chances and score goals, but I'm just seeing Doku, Haaland, Bernardo, Alvarez, Foden. Even with our best team, you know, they could get goals against us, especially with that defence and the way we like to play. I just can't see our defence holding up to scrutiny in this one. That's what I'm worried about. So I just can't see anything but City winning the game. I'll be shocked if they didn't, but I agree with Brains as well. I don't see any reason why we can't walk away from this game with a lot of positives and something to be proud of, and a performance and performance to be proud of. So, and I think it'll probably be a performance where you'll say, look, if we had a better defence, we could have won that game, kind of thing. I reckon we'll probably come away saying that. But unfortunately, when it's Haaland up against Davis, you know, what can you expect? So I'm going 4-2 City, but let me know in the comment section below what your score predictions are.